a real honor to be here. I've long admired the Rotary. Y'all do a great job. And it's a treat to speak. This is a passion of mine. I love downtown, I love everything about it. I do want to say that the thing that's the best to me on my resume is that last paragraph. And that's that I'm a father of two fine young men, my son Charlie and my son Ted. So before I get into my presentation, my idea of fun is going to a big city and putting on tennis shoes and walking around. I travel relentlessly. And we lose sight of it. We're kind of too close to it, but we have a great downtown. San Antonio is really a unique place. And we lose track of that sometime, but it's something that we need to appreciate, that we live in truly a unique place. And I hope to be able to prove it now. Or maybe not. All right, 2009, Mayor Castro declared the Decade of Downtown. It seems like a long time ago, 7 years. And in that period of time, we've accomplished quite a few things downtown. Of course, the new convention center, if you've not had a chance to go inside of it, it's spectacular inside. Tobin Center, of course, this is world class. We built a facility for, I think, $200 million, and it will stand up to anything in Texas or in the nation. It is a unique facility. The Riverwalk, of course, was completed in this period of time. Both the museum reached to the north and the mission reached to the south. Finally, for all the people who live downtown, after years of asking for it, we have a grocery store downtown. If you've not been in there, it is really well done. HEB stepped up and did a great job. And something that hasn't been, I don't think, appreciated much by the population is the World Heritage designation of the missions. That is going to really be a big deal for us going forward. It's going to be celebrated on our 300th anniversary of the city in 2018. So that's what's happened, what's to come. First off, Hemisphere Park. If you've been downtown, you've seen that they've cleared the original part of the convention center at the corner of North Alamo and Market. And this is what it's getting ready to be. It's so much fun to have a toy. So this is the piece that's left. The river is over here. This is the Hilton. They're going to do a big green, a big park in the middle, and then surround it with buildings. The first three buildings have been announced. One is going to be by David Adelman. One is going to be by NRP. Those are both apartments. And then the Zachary company, David Zachary, is going to build a 200,000 square foot office building. And those, folks, that's about to start work. You'll see that this year. I'm kind of ashamed. I have not followed the reimagining of the Alamo very closely. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. A lot of people working on this at the legislature right now. They're trying to get allocated money, and I think you're going to see quite a bit happen there. This is the plan. If you go on their website, the original plan of the Alamo, and we lose track of how big the facility was. This is, let me get my bearings. There's the Commerce Street. This is the old Joskies. There's the Alamo. Then the footprint extends over to where the historic buildings are here in the federal courthouse here. Those, of course, won't go away, but they're really going to try to reimagine that. When that plan's public, you ought to get a presentation by that. Under construction right now, over by First Baptist Church is this building. The Tobin Center has been long short of parking. Very handsome structure. I didn't know you could make a garage so pretty. And that's on the triangle that's across the street to the south from the Baptist Church. Something that I'm very involved with and I'm on the committee for is the renovation of San Pedro Creek. To get your bearings, this is 10, that's 35 coming this way. Here's the Riverwalk, the River Loop, and the creek parallels that through downtown. Right now it's a culvert. Right now it's 8 feet wide. You'd miss it if you weren't looking for it. And it's just going to be spectacular. This is actually a plan showing an amphitheater that will face the Alameda Theater. This is on the other side of the Alameda. This is Houston Street, and Rosa Verde is on the right side, and the New Frost Building's on the left. This will be an area that the creek is widened. And they're doing a very robust public art campaign. This piece has actually was the winner of a competition. It's been commissioned. This will be up at the very front of the right here, up near Fox Tech, is going to be where this piece is. And you can tell by the scale of this is a big piece of sculpture. Something else that I've been very involved in is Broadway. Broadway, some of you who were here back then, Broadway used to be the way to Austin. It was a freeway. It was actually widened in the 50s. And it's very pedestrian unfriendly. Those of us who work downtown want to improve our streets so people feel comfortable walking around. This is actually going to happen in 3 phases. So we're starting down here at Travis Street, and we're going to go all the way to Mulberry, the first phase, and then from Mulberry north to Hildebrand, the second phase, and eventually it will connect to the McNay. And so all those stars that you see are cultural institutions. And as a group, stakeholders, property owners came together with the cultural institutions, the Whitty, the McNay, the Museum of Art, the Children's Museum, the Garden Center, and all of us wrote checks to help pay for this. One of the things that has been missing from the discussion about the bond campaign is the private sector has been contributing to this. This first stretch will cost $56 million. The city is allocating $40 million in the bond campaign. I encourage you to vote for that. The balance of it is coming from state dollars and from our pockets. And this is what it's going to look like. So we're going to narrow Broadway, and we're going to create real sidewalks, and we're going to line it with trees and line it with parking. What that does is if you're a pedestrian on the street today, and cars are going by at 50 miles an hour, and they're 3 feet away, you don't feel comfortable. And so what we're trying to do is provide a buffer, street parking, trees, to make the pedestrian feel comfortable. And so that's actually a stretch from 3rd Street up to Josephine. Of more interest probably to this group, this is the stretch right out in front of the museum where we're sitting. This is the existing configuration. That's what it's going to look like. So it's going to get narrowed, it's going to have a boulevard, it's going to get lined with trees. It will be a great street. That is what we're trying to accomplish. And that's, you can see the Broadway in the distance. That's going to take you all the way to Hildebrand. Whether you realize it or not, we have a brand new federal courthouse going up. It's on the side of the old police headquarters. It's on South Santa Rosa. It backs up to the creek. This is a plan that's been done by Lake Flato. It'll be a very handsome courthouse when it's finished. Probably not many people in this room have seen this image. One of the great men of this city is Jorge, just went blank. Cortez, thank you, senior moment. Jorge has been a huge champion for the Near West Side, what we now call Zona Cultural, and had all these images of what the area could look like. This particular shot is standing on the creek looking west. This is Commerce Street. The buildings on the right exist. They don't look quite as good as that. The building on the left is the Continental Hotel. And as a group, we came together and put money into it and are getting $40 million again from the bond campaign to narrow streets, to line them with trees. This is actually Santa Rosa. This is looking south. That's the fire and police headquarters up there on the right. This is the federal courthouse site here, and that's Bill Miller's, that's behind the trees. That's what it's going to look like. So again, everywhere we're trying to make the pedestrian experience better. Bike lanes, parking for cars, bigger sidewalks. And so that whole area, that whole grid basically from Market Street on the south up to the Italian Center on the north, from San Pedro Creek to the freeway is going to get redone. Ladies and gentlemen, this is nothing but spectacular. And if you haven't been down there, it is coming out of the ground. They are digging right now. Frostbank Tower architect is Cesar Pelli, one of the world's greatest architects. This, even though people say it's not the tallest building in town, it's going to be a beautiful building. We're going to be very proud of this when it's finished. So something that's near and dear to my heart is housing, and for this crowd I decided to kind of get in the weeds a little bit with you and talk about what's informed me as a developer and an investor and some of the things that are going on right now. Years ago, I read a story by the Brookings Institute about how downtowns turn around. Unfortunately, it was a 12-step program, but we have followed this. We have followed this pretty closely, and I'm not going to go through all those. Hopefully, you can see them. But this is where we are right now. We're actually all the way to step 9. And this isn't talked about in the press very much, but downtown's really expensive. The apartments that we have, the 1 bedrooms leased for $1,500 a month, 2 bedrooms are over $2,000 a month. And that's a limited market, the number of people who can pay for that. And so behind the scenes, there's a lot of conversation going on among the downtown group about how do we start making affordable units. Unfortunately, most of the people shrink their apartments. So the typical apartment is 750 feet. Now we're building 500-foot 1 bedrooms. And so you're kind of shrinking until you can afford it. So this is the first time I've ever gone public with the next 2 charts. I track supply and demand. And this first slide is annual demand of apartments since 2010. So the very first project downtown was the Vestine, a modern project. We opened it up January 1st, 2010, and since then, we have done 350 units per year on average. Last year, it doubled. And for a lot of us, that was exactly what we hoped to have happen because of this. This is the supply side of that. And so if you look, it's kind of lumpy. There's years that not much is built, and there's years a whole lot's built. But folks, we got a lot of units coming online down here. Lot in 16, lot in 17. So we've had 438, 4,238 delivered. Our average supply is 537, so it's been more than the absorption. Today we have 875 available. At our historic average, it's over 2 years of absorption. If we keep going at last year's absorption, it's less than a year and a half. So we're watching this very, very closely right now, those of us in the business, to see if that absorption is going to continue. A lot of you follow this, so this won't be news. This is the cellars, and if you have not been over to Pearl lately to see this, it is just a remarkable building. Very expensive. I didn't have anything in here about rents, but the average rent downtown right now is about $1.85 a foot. $1.85 a foot. They're going to try to lease that building reportedly for $3.50 a foot. So, high cotton, as my grandfather used to say. If you're wondering what's going up across the river, across the street from the Museum of Art, there's a big wooden structure that's going up right on the river. This is it. It's a group out of Dallas called Alamo Manhattan. They're really doing a good job. I'm a sidewalk superintendent. 191 units are going to complete it third quarter of this year. This just broke ground. So if you know where the VFW Hall is, which is the best bar on the river, that land just to the south of it, as you go, there's a great bar across the river. Come on, Rick, you know the bar. What's the name of it? Paramore? Paramore. So this is right across the river from that. Sorry, I had to pick on you. And so that's actually under construction as we speak, another 220 units. So again, I'm going to get down in the weeds with you a little bit and talk about who lives downtown. And when I first got started on this, I thought it was going to be a barbell. I thought we'd have 20s and 30s and empty nesters, 50s and 60s, and nobody in the middle. And the reality is, from a age demographic, it's egg-shaped. Our biggest cohort by age is 30s to 40s. 30s to 40s are the most, 20s to 30s the second, and then it does this. It tapers as you get older. Personally, I think that's going to change. I think what's happening at the Pearl, what's happening with Cellars, people with gray hair are going to move down there. They feel comfortable. There's a lot of amenities, and I think over time we're going to see that egg kind of morph a little bit, but it hasn't happened yet. So these are actually my demographics from this 2021. This is the number of units, the number of residents, male and female. Look at the median age. Then look at the income. Now, standing joke in my office are pets. You do not want to be at the front door of the Vistana at 5:05. It is dog patrol. It is literally 50 dogs trying to get out to the park. And then there's my mix of jobs. We've always had a material number of military. It's been really gratifying, the reception we've had to military. Milt, how am I doing on time?
Doing great.
Okay, I'm going to tell a little quick story. So the Vistana has a penthouse that's at the very top, and it was in a change order, and it's 2 stories, it's 3,500 square feet, and it's 3-bedroom, 3-bath. It is spectacular. And when I was building it, I called it the Manu Ginobili Suite. And the reason for that was it was spectacular, and it had 12-foot ceilings, and it was $7,500 a month. And at that time, that was the highest rent in San Antonio. Well, it would never lease, never lease. So we were open 18 months before I finally threw in the towel and I said, mark it down to $5,000 and I'll see if it'll lease. Well, it leased the next day. And it leased to 2 of my existing residents, and they were 2 doctors. They were 2 military emergency room doctors. One was Army, one was Air Force. So I was so excited that it leased so quick, I contacted them and said, look, I'm going to pay for a party for you. Send me your list of alcohol and I'll pay for it. Single space, legal length, single space, legal length, there were 35 kinds of liquor on that thing. I've never seen so much, and stuff I've never heard of. $1,800 later, I delivered it. Their party was on a Saturday night. It started at 10. I would have been asleep for 30 minutes by that point. The next morning, I get up, I ride the bike on Sunday mornings, and I ride my bike down there, and I've got a key, and it's 7 o'clock, 7:15, and I go up. It has its own little private vestibule, and folks, this was a brand new place, and so elevator opens, I step out onto the vestibule, and it's sticky. And so I kind of walk a little bit forward. The door to the apartment is cracked open, and I push, and it was like a scene out of Animal House. There was literally broken bottles, and there was somebody passed out on the sofa. So there's a bedroom right here on the left, and the bedroom door is cracked, and it opens, and it's one of the docs. And he goes, "Oh, Mr. Cross, we just finished. You missed a great party." Well, at that moment, I realized I had leased it to Hawkeye and Trapper. I've told this story a number of times over the years, and my son is 25, and so there's some age bracket, about 35, where everybody over 35 gets it, and everybody else goes, "Who?" It's like my Rolodex. Every day. So another quick story, that same Brookings Institute piece, so this is 15 or 20 years ago, said between 5 and 15% of households would consider living downtown. And you go, well, that's not very many. San Antonio has 800,000 households. So that says there's a potential demand of between 40 and 120,000 units in downtown. That's what's informed me about that there was a market for this. By the way, there's only 5,000 units of apartments downtown, so we have a long way to go, assuming we're affordable. So more recently, that's been updated, and my son's generation, the millennial generation, now says it's between 15 and 30%. So of the millennial generation, it's still a smaller proportion, but it's doubled. And when I read the story about it, it was a negative. Well, only 15 to 30% of millennials would consider living downtown. I danced a jig when I heard that. I thought that was great because basically it doubled our market. But they want the downtown experience. They'll work where they have to work. They'll just drive to get there. So I'm not a worrier. I really like to, Nancy calls it my epiphanies, my aha moments. I try to think ahead. What's happening? Where are we going? What's going to impact what we do? And this is the #1 issue in the commercial real estate world right now. Every retail real estate person right now will tell you they're living in fear of what Amazon's going to do to them. And I'm not talking about the suburbs, but I will forecast that 3 or 4 malls will close in San Antonio in the next 10 years. The big boxes, the J.C. Penney's, the Sears, they're dead. It's just when are they going to go away? So at Christmas of 2015, went into the management office at the Vistana, and we literally had 200 packages stacked up. I had to go in sideways to get into the office. And the amount of time it was taking for us to sort the packages and tell the tenants about it, it was costing us money. So what's our solution? Ben Brewer has been helping me with this. This is what's called Luxor. It's a package delivery box. And express salesman comes in, he's delivering it to Ed Cross at the Vistana, room 300, puts it in a box, sends you a text. Your package is in box A3 and your code is 1234, sent. And then you get home from work and there it's waiting. It's just phenomenal. It's just an amazing device. Here's what's getting ready to happen. I was out of town last week and Nancy sent me an announcement that Uber Eats is coming to Down and is going to deliver restaurant meals to you. I think the next thing I have to do at both apartment complexes is a heated locker system and a cooled locker system. Folks, I'm not kidding. I'm dead damn serious. People are going to have their meals delivered, and when they get home, they're going to open the box, and there's a heated meal waiting for them, and they're going to have their groceries delivered, and they're in the other box. Mark me, I'll probably have it in Vistana in the next couple of years, because that's just the way the world's happening. The other thing, I'm just fascinated. I'm reading everything I can about autonomous vehicles right now. And the background on this is modern America is individual cars. And the number one cost we have in these downtown buildings is parking. And the parking spaces don't pay. So parking spaces at Vistana cost me $20,000 a piece. I make a 3% return on that. And the bankers in the room run screaming when I tell them that, but you have to provide it. So I'm just fascinated with what's going to happen when autonomous vehicles are common. I don't know if you remember the slide about the demographics, but on the demographics there was a slide that showed number of cars per apartment, and it was 1.15. I had built the building with a ratio of 1.45, but I counted on that 0.3 of a car per apartment. That means 75 parking spaces are sitting vacant at night. And at $75 a month, that's real money. And that ratio has just been going down ever since we built the building. In fact, I think what's going to happen when autonomous vehicles take over and you can take Uber to work, or Uber, carpool, those things are coming. Sorry, Rick. Those things are coming, and it's only going to...
I'll be in that bar, don't worry about it.
At some point, I think the parking demand is going to be such that we don't have to build parking. I'm not sure when that's going to happen. Some of the press say it's going to be here as early as 2020. I actually think on a broad basis it's going to be 2025 or 2030 before people in this room have one car instead of 2 or 3. So that's it. I hope you all enjoyed that. I'll take questions.
Where do all these 30 to 40-year-olds send their kids to school?
So the question is, where do the 30s and 40-year-olds send their kids to school? That is actually sort of the next wave. It wasn't on my list, but we're working hard to bring a couple of charter schools to downtown. KIPP is looking for a location downtown. Great Hearts has opened up at Temple Bethel. I'm actually working actively to locate a K through 12 charter school downtown. I think it's only a matter of time before we have a school right in the heart of downtown the way it used to be. Good question. Bob?
When you do the narrowing of the streets and beautification, making it into boulevards, what is the traffic flow going to be? Are the lights going to be synchronized better? Because right now, you have stop and go, stop and go.
Well, that's actually two questions, and I'll answer that. The question is, when Broadway is narrow, what's it going to do to the traffic? And the second question is, can they synchronize the lights? I can speak to the first, not to the second. It's a frustration of mine. Broadway, believe it or not, only carries about 22,000 cars a day between downtown and Hildebrand. People think it's got a lot more traffic on it than it does. It actually has more traffic north of Hildebrand when you get into Alamo Heights. So the traffic engineers tell us that when we have 5 lanes down there, we have more than enough capacity. And frankly, kind of going back to the autonomous vehicles, I think at some point you'd rather have the narrow streets and the sidewalks so you can walk and then hop in your Uber and go home when you're ready. In terms of synchronization, call Mike Frisbee. Yes, sir.
And I was intrigued by your Broadway visual.
Yes,
All
sir.
the trees you're going to plant. A lot of people in the room don't know this, but the incoming new president for Rotary International is encouraging every Rotarian to plant a tree next year. We're probably ahead of the game, so I'm gonna get you ready for trees next year. Is that part of the bond program? Is that dependent on the bond program, or is that a done deal? And if it is, what are they gonna do about the trees?
When I leave here, I'm going to call Mike Frisbee and say, I've got all the trees paid for. I couldn't resist. I don't know. We're in the design phase. They've hired all the consultants, the engineers and the architects to design that. There are certain trees that you want to plant in South Texas. You want to plant the cedar elms and other things that are drought resistant. But I am going to remember that. Thank you for letting me know about that. Yes, sir.
Okay, well, the city of Waco undertook a project about 20 years ago to do almost this exact same thing, and they just absolutely destroyed downtown because people just went away. What's the possibility that there could be another answer?
My time, and I'm a UT alum, not a Baylor Bear. I did marry a bear, and so there was a way in the 60s and 70s of pedestrian courts downtown. Houston Street's a good example of it here. And it was a reaction to the freeway construction and all the retail moving out to the Loop. And San Antonio was no different than any other major city. One time, Ben, was it 7 or 8 department stores? 7 department stores on Houston, and they all left, and they all moved out. And so the downtown owners panicked and said, what can we do to improve this and make it better? And unfortunately, they made it a pedestrian mall. And in many of these places, they took the cars off completely, and it killed it. They did it wrong. I'm gonna turn this around and throw a little curve at you. What's happening downtown right now, the growth of downtown, is in part because of residential. People are living there, they're going to the restaurants and the bars, they're trying to find food downtown, and so they're driving the retail on the street level. I personally think streets should be two-way. I've actually been kind of silently thinking about writing a letter to Mike Frisbee and to Roberto Trevino saying, these one-way streets move a lot of traffic through, but it hurts retail because you're going so fast you don't pay attention to the store, whereas if you're going two ways, I'm sorry if you like your cars, and I keep saying we're going to slow you down, but if two-way traffic helps the retailers on either side. What we're talking about is not what was done in downtown or in Waco. This is we're not going to affect the total capacity, we're not going to affect the flow, we're just going to make a pedestrian sidewalk that's going to be comfortable for Nancy and me to walk down between them. A good question. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, last one.
This is my sign. You're my last question.
Great. So you paint a beautiful picture of quality of life downtown, boulevard streets, new amenities like the Luxor or the cool Luxor. There's a piece of the puzzle I don't hear in this, and that's the role of mass transit, not just Uber. Could you speak to that?
I was the vice chairman of the Friends of the Streetcar, and went to some great trouble and expense to stand up a group in support of the streetcar. And this gray hair is part of that. So I'm going to go ahead and say it. My pendulum has now come 180. And so I no longer believe that the future of mass transit on a local basis is rail transportation. Those rails are so expensive. It's $40 million a mile. And I have kind of, as I've thought my way through this, I've decided, and they only go one way. They go up the middle of Broadway. And if you want to go anywhere else, you got to walk. And I think that's one of the things autonomous vehicles is going to change. Let me go off on one quick tangent, and then I'll come back to this. I think at some point, transportation is going to be a utility. You'll buy a car for $100 a month, you'll get unlimited rides on Uber. And so you'll buy a service, you won't buy a car, you won't have a parking space, you won't have service, you'll buy a service and you'll spend all your time in Uber, I think, or whatever happens. I think that's where we're going to be in 15 years. And so you don't have to go to the rail line to walk to take the train. You'll go from Southwest Airlines, you're going to go from point to point. Now, here's where we do need mass transit. We need, I'll pound the table on this, we need a rail line from downtown San Antonio to downtown Austin. Nancy and I went up to Austin 2 weeks ago to see Charlie, and we went up to 38th and Lamar Saturday, 2.5 hours. And in about, Old Dwarf, I was, So if it was up to me, I wouldn't spend it on the light rail here. I'd cooperate and stop in New Braunfels, stop in San Marcos, stop in downtown Austin. So with that, I'm done. Thank you very much.